Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Brandon, and welcome back to another episode of Murata Media. And so first off, I want to apologize for my absence for a while. I've just been really busy lately, and I haven't really had time to go to the movies or to make a video because I've really had nothing to make a video about. But I thought about it, and there was actually a video that I've been wanting to make for quite some time, and that was just to show off my Blu Ray collection. Now, I will preface this by saying that my Blu Ray collection is sort of amateur compared to other YouTubers, but I still think that it's a pretty decent amount and it's only gonna grow from here, and I'll be sure to make more videos in the future when I pick up new ones. And I actually just moved my Blu-rays to this top shelf here. I had my Xbox 360 games up there, but I moved those down a shelf because having movies in the background seemed to make more sense. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And I'll be showing off the movies that I own in alphabetical order, and the first one is Astra. I love this movie. I went into this movie with very low expectations. I wasn't expecting much, and I walked out and I thought that this movie was absolutely amazing. This is easily the most underappreciated movie of 2019. I thought it was just incredible. But if you look at the audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes, you will see that this movie was not very well received. People said it was boring, nothing happens, and it was just an overall snooze fest. And I obviously disagreed, because I bought the movie, so obviously I love it. Cinematography is gorgeous, and I love the world that they built up in this movie. Brad Pitt gives an unbelievable performance, and yeah, this is just a great movie. I love it. And coming up next is Baby Driver. I actually own this movie twice. I found this Blu-ray at Target, I think really cheap. I think it was only like $10. And then fairly recently, when I went to Best Buy to look for other new releases, I found this Steelbook. And I was like, am I really going to buy this movie again just because I like the packaging? And I did exactly that. Look at this. This is beautiful. This is such kick-ass cover art, and look at the back of it, and the inside is like this paint color, and look at that disc. The disc is so cool. But yeah, great movie, very action-packed, was robbed of Best Editing at the Oscars a few years ago. It should have won it by a long shot. The story could be a little better in places, I think Baby himself is a little empty as a character, but overall, this is one of Edgar Wright's best, in my opinion. And up next, Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance, but I've never heard anybody call it that. It's a great movie. What more can I say? It won Best Picture, as you can see. I personally don't think it should have. There's another movie that was nominated that I think should have won, but such splendid acting by all. Alexander Gonzalez Iñárritu, he did such an amazing job directing this movie. The cinematography is mind-blowing. It's another one of those movies that's cheated to look as if it's one long continuous shot. And it's just an overall commentary about Hollywood and the entertainment industry and how we kind of put superhero movies before movies that are more personal and artistic. And I haven't seen this movie in a while, and this is definitely a movie that I could probably watch over and over again. Next is Blinded by the Light. This made my top movies of 2019 list. I did not think that I would love this movie as much as I did. Bruce Springsteen just isn't my type of music, but I definitely respect him and everything that he has done. But Bruce Springsteen's music is not the sole driving force of this movie. It's this guy, Javed. I mentioned in my top movies of 2019 list that Javed might be my favorite character of 2019, and that still stands true. And I think that's mostly because I actually really relate to his character. Up next, Boyhood. I personally think that this should have won Best Picture over Birdman, truthfully. I just thought this movie was amazing. It's the most accurate representation of growing up that I have ever seen. And what I really respect about Boyhood is how they were able to make a movie over the span of 12 years without having it completely fall apart. This movie is very long, but none of it feels like wasted time. I was riveted throughout the entire thing, and I love it. This movie is great. It should have won Best Picture. Next is the Dark Knight trilogy. Probably the greatest superhero trilogy ever. Of all time, in my opinion, probably. Even though Batman is not my personal favorite superhero, these movies are just undeniably entertaining. You have The Dark Knight, which is easily the best of the three, and honestly my least favorite of the three was The Dark Knight Rises. Batman Begins was such a good start to the trilogy, and The Dark Knight is the one that just blew everyone away. And The Dark Knight Rises, while I do think it is very good, it definitely is the weakest of the three. Like, you will never ever see Marvel make movies like this unless Christopher Nolan directs them. So thank you for Christopher Nolan for giving us this remarkable trilogy. Next, The Disaster Artist. I love this movie. I thought it was very good, and probably because I'm a huge fan of The Room, so I'm a little bit biased. But this movie is just great. I almost said James Cameron. James Franco gives such a great performance as the legendary Tommy Wiseau. And I think they did a really good job of following the book, but there are a few moments that are a lot more dramatized that didn't actually happen. But this is a very entertaining movie. It's hilarious, and it's just a lot of fun. Next is Ford versus Ferrari. I just bought this the other day, actually, so I haven't had a chance to watch it. And it was in my top 10 of 2019 at one point, but there was so many good movies that came out last year, so unfortunately this one fell a little bit short. Phenomenal editing. It won the Oscar for Best Editing at the Oscars this year. It also won Best Sound Editing, which I thought was a little surprising, but if there's anything this movie deserves to be commended for, it's definitely the technical aspects, like the editing and the sound and just the cinematography, all of it. Great movie. Definitely check it out. And next we have Get Out. This was Jordan Peele's first movie, and I honestly cannot believe that this was only his first movie, because it seems like this man has been making movies for a very long time. And I love that Jordan Peele showed that he wasn't just a one-trick pony. He can be hilarious, and he can also make something as serious and thrilling as this movie. And it's not to say that this movie isn't funny. There are quite a few hilarious moments in this movie too. And I love that Jordan Peele is able to blend those elements together so seamlessly. The Grand Budapest Hotel. At this point, Wes Anderson movies are basically a meme, and everyone just makes fun of them, saying that only white people like them. And I mean, I'm a white guy and I like his movies a lot, so I guess I fit that stereotype to a T. I love Wes Anderson's presentation. He just has like this quirky way of showing things through symmetry and just his overall style. It's so unique, and I don't think anybody can really duplicate it. And I cannot wait for his new movie, The French Dispatch, that's coming out this year. It's gonna be great, and I hope it's as good as The Grand Budapest Hotel, because this might be my favorite movie of his. Next up is Gone Girl. David Fincher. What more can I say? He's an unbelievable director, and this is an unbelievable movie. I loved every second of it. I actually bought this movie on Amazon, and when I bought it, I didn't realize that there was a lot more to it. Like, here, let me show you. Like, here's the case that the movie came in, you know, like, very simple, very clean, I like it. But it also came with this amazing Amy children's book, and I just thought that was really cool. Like, look, there's full illustrations and everything. I just thought that was such a cool little detail. And it didn't mention this when I bought it, like, so I thought that was a really cool feature to throw in along with the movie. And following that up is Hacksaw Ridge by Mel Gibson. I loved this movie a lot more than I thought I would too, and this is another movie that I got a really cool steelbook case for. I mean, there's that, and look at the back of it. The back of it is really cool. The inside is the battlefield, and those discs, those are really cool discs as well. But what I love most about this movie is that it really does not hold anything back. This movie is violent. Like, it's really gory, but I mean, it's war. What else can you expect? But there's a lot of war movies that are pretty tame in their presentation when it comes to the actual battle. I would say the battle scenes in this are right up there with Saving Private Ryan as the most graphic, and I really respect that about it. Great movie. Check it out. Hot Rod. I mean, it's a very stupid comedy. It makes me laugh. I love it. There's really nothing more I could say about it. I quote this movie quite often with many different people, and this is a movie that I enjoy watching with people because it's just a joy to watch with a big group of friends. Next, Joker. I like this movie, okay? I know that this movie now has a reputation of being very overrated, and I can definitely agree with that to an extent. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's a masterpiece, but it is a very solid film, and I think it's great. And this is actually my second attempt of buying this movie, because I originally bought it off Amazon, and the case was like destroyed. It was ripped. The discs were scratched up and not even secured in place. So that night I went to Kohl's and returned it. Did you guys know Kohl's does that? You can return Amazon stuff to Kohl's. So you're welcome, Kohl's, for the free endorsement, even though no one's gonna care. But I went to Target that night and I bought it again, but Target has like this exclusive packaging, and I think this packaging is way cooler than the one that I originally had. Really good movie. Joaquin Phoenix definitely deserved the Oscar for his performance. I really wanted Adam Driver to win for Marriage Story, but I knew he wasn't going to, unfortunately. Next, my newest edition, Knives Out. I mean, I just bought this the other day because it just came out this week, and it's a very, very, very fun movie. Daniel Craig actually does a very good job of playing a Southerner. Ana de Armas was great as well, and she's also recently become my new celebrity crush, so it's actually a lot deeper than I thought it would be too. Like, this movie actually had a lot to say. While it definitely doesn't dive deeper, it basically just scratches the surface, but you go in expecting just a typical murder mystery, and you get so much more than that, and that's what I love about it. Up next is La La Land. Masterpiece. Simple as that. I love this glossy case that it came with, too. This movie should have won Best Picture. Yeah, getting it out right there. Not to say that Moonlight was a bad movie. It was a good movie, but this was so much better, in my opinion. I was having such a good time watching this movie. Damien Chazelle is a master filmmaker. He's made 3 movies thus far. I've seen all of them. I love all of them. And I own another one of his movies that you'll later see later on, and I'll have a lot more to say about that. But this movie is just great. I love musicals, so even though this movie, there's not a lot of musical numbers in it, but it can be categorized as a musical, and it's a damn good one. I mean, the opening scene is them dancing on one of the busiest freeways in America, and it blows you away just in the first 2 minutes, and that is a huge sign that the movie you're about to watch is really something special. Next, The Lighthouse. This was my favorite movie of 2019. I recently just rewatched this with a group of my friends, and we had a big discussion about it after we finished it. We talked about it for maybe a half hour. I gave my opinion on what the ending meant. I go over it more in depth in my review of it, so if you haven't seen my review of this movie, then go check that out. And we basically all had different thoughts, and we were asking questions like, oh, what did that mean? And did you notice that? And that made me love it even more. And we also watched it with subtitles. That was my biggest complaint of The Lighthouse when I first reviewed it, was that there's a few moments where it's hard to understand the characters, and after we watched it with subtitles, there were things that they said that I initially didn't notice the first time I watched it. Great film. Robert Eggers, great director. Willem Dafoe should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and Robert Pattinson was great too. This movie should have gotten so many more nominations than just the one for Best Cinematography. Even though the cinematography is phenomenal, it should have gotten so much more. This is a masterpiece. Watch it as soon as you can. Next, Little Miss Sunshine. I saw this movie when I was very young. I think I was, how old was I? I think I was 10 years old when this movie came out, and I remember watching it at that time, and I still thought it was great. It's just this family drama about a family that really knows nothing about each other. They're all so disconnected, and every single character in this movie has depth. All of them have an arc, and all of them are resolved by the end of it. It truly is remarkable writing, brilliant film, and I'm definitely going to watch this again. Hell, I might even watch this again this weekend. Following that up is Logan Lucky. When this movie first came out, some of my friends, we were just bored one night and said, hey, do you guys want to go to the movies? And there was nothing really out at that time, but we all agreed, and we just said, hey, let's go watch this. It looks fun. Maybe it'll be bad, maybe it'll be good, who knows. And we walked out, and we thought this movie was just great. we loved this movie so much, and I love it so much, and I love rewatching it because it makes me laugh every time. And it's not even that it tries to be laugh out loud funny. It's just funny in its presentation, the way characters interact and the way they speak and just the overall tone of scenes is there's something so hilarious about it. Maybe it's because it's uncomfortable in a way, but it's a lot of fun. It's basically just Ocean's 11 instead they're trying to rob a NASCAR track instead of a casino. So it's redneck Ocean's 11 in a way, but it's a great movie, and it did not get as much love as it deserved. This is a very, very good film. And Nicolas Cage's return to form, Mandy. If there was an award for most batshit insane movie of 2018 when this came out, then this movie would have won it by a long shot. It's 2 hours long, and the first hour is very slow, and it just sets up everything. Hour number 2 is some of the most fun I've ever had watching anything. It's just so off the walls insane, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a movie that you sit back, enjoy, and marvel at its absurdity because it is very self-aware of what it's doing. It's a lot of fun. Believe me, you will not regret checking this out. After that is Midsommar. I watched this movie on the 4th of July. I mean, what better way to say happy birthday, America, than to watch a folk horror tale? I've been pretty open about my dislike for Ari Aster's first movie, Hereditary. I mean, I completely understand why that movie was as well received as it was. It just personally wasn't for me, but it was so unique enough to the point where I was like, I will definitely watch his next movie. I did, and I really enjoyed it. This movie is a trip. That's like the one thing I could say about it that basically sums it all up. It's very funny, it's very suspenseful, and it's just overall disturbing in many parts. But that's just Ari Aster's style, and I cannot wait to see what he brings to us next. Nightcrawler. Jake Gyllenhaal, snubbed for Best Actor a few years ago. Should have gotten a nomination. What I love most about it is that it focuses on like this guy who you see as an anti-hero, because Jake Gyllenhaal's character is not really likable. He's in fact kind of a scumbag. And I really love that it just focuses on a character like that, and it doesn't try to portray him as a hero because he is the furthest thing from it. And next is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mentioned in one of my last videos that I was very sick recently, and I missed 2 days of work, and the first day I was kind of just laying in bed all day because I felt like garbage, and the second day I still felt bad, but I was able to, move around and do things, and I was really bored, so I was like, what can I watch? So I went over to my Blu-rays, and I picked this out. Haven't seen it in a while. I watched it all the way through, and I loved it even more. This is a great film. This is honestly one of Tarantino's best, in my opinion. I love it so much. This movie doesn't really try to blow you away. It's just focused on telling a story and how the world changes around us and how we're willing to adapt with it. Up next, Parasite. I mean, I've gone over this movie in depth 3 times. I reviewed it, I talked about it in my best of 2019 list, and I ranked it number 1 in my ranking this year's Best Picture nominees, because it's absolutely the best. There's really nothing more I could say about it that I haven't already said, but I will say, now that the Oscars have happened, I'm so happy this movie won Best Picture, because even though it was not my favorite movie of 2019, it was a very close second. It definitely deserved it. I'm so happy it won, and I'm so happy Bong Joon-ho won Best Director because he deserved it. This movie is just a masterpiece. There's nothing wrong with it. I really want to show this to my family and some more of my friends who haven't seen it, because this is a movie everyone needs to watch. Watch it right now. Up next is, I'm gonna get hate for this, Power Rangers. Fuck you. I like this movie, okay? I grew up a huge Power Rangers fan, and I was actually very excited for this movie because it seemed like it was gonna take a more dark and adult approach to Power Rangers, but it really didn't. It kind of did in some parts, but it stayed true to that classic Power Rangers cheese. It's very silly, but it can also be really serious in parts, and I liked it. It's not perfect, but it's a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. Up next, The Room. Considered to be, the greatest bad movie ever made, and it's very hard to disagree with that. I personally do not believe in the so bad it's good argument. I don't think a bad movie can be good. That being said, I do think that a bad movie can be entertaining, and that's exactly what The Room is. I also got to see a screening of this movie in theaters right before The Disaster Artist came out, and it is without a doubt the most fun that I've ever had at the movie theater. It was like a party, basically. Everyone was just having a good time. Spoons were being thrown, there was a giant inflatable football, people were screaming, people were laughing their asses off. It's something you really have to experience in theaters if you ever get the chance. Next, Samurai Cop, another movie that is considered so bad it's good. I don't have much to say about it because I honestly have not watched this movie myself from start to finish because I've been trying to get some friends to watch it with, but for some reason none of them want to, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm still gonna keep trying to get them to watch it with me because the clips I've seen are golden. Up next is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I actually was not planning on buying this movie, but I saw it at Best Buy just the other day, actually, in a steelbook case, and it was pretty cheap. And I love collecting these steelbook cases, and this one's really cool too. It's got all the monsters on the front, it's got this spider on the back. I actually enjoyed this movie. It's not incredible, not a masterpiece, but it's definitely something I could see myself rewatching every Halloween, because it serves as a gateway to introduce people to horror movies, and I think this is a good intro to it, because it actually is very unsettling at times, and that's mostly due to the fact that the monsters are all practical, they're not CGI, and I'm really glad Guillermo del Toro had a hand in making this movie. School of Rock. I cannot believe that this movie came out 17 years ago. I was only 7 years old when I saw this movie in theaters, and I remember this movie so vividly. It's very quotable. That's honestly the reason I bought it. A coworker of mine and I were just quoting this movie nonstop, and I was like, do I own that movie? And I didn't, and so I bought it. And yeah, this movie is like a big part of my childhood. This movie is just, it's awesome. And up next is Searching. This was my runner-up in my favorite movies of 2018. But this movie I was hearing very good things about, but I was nervous about seeing it because it's presented in the same way as Unfriended, which was a pile of garbage. It's just a modern take on a missing person story and shows the dangers of the internet. It's very entertaining, and I don't hear people talk about this movie that much, and they should, because it's worth talking about. Sing Street. One of my favorite coming-of-age movies. I got a recommendation for this movie from my dad. I watched it on Netflix one night, and I fell in love with it. Just a very sweet, simple coming-of-age story about a kid in Ireland who starts a band just to impress a girl. This movie, I think, should have gotten an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song. There's a song called Drive It Like You Stole It, and it's so catchy, and it just feels like an authentic 80s song. And the songs that they write throughout the whole movie get progressively better, because when they start writing songs, they're not that great, and then by the end of it, they're really good. That may just be a subjective thing that I saw it as. And next is The Social Network. I haven't seen this movie in a really long time, so I can't say a whole lot about it, but I just remember it being great. But I remember really loving it, and I mean, it's David Fincher. Has David Fincher ever made a bad movie? I mean, maybe aside from Alien 3. But I definitely need to rewatch this so I can give my full thoughts on it. Up next is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This was my favorite movie of 2018 by a long shot. And I think it's safe to say that this is one of the best superhero movies ever made. It's definitely up there for me. And I think in the years to come, people will start to realize just how truly great Into the Spider-Verse really is, and they will put it in the top tier of superhero movies along with movies like Spider-Man 2 and the Dark Knight trilogy. The animation is amazing. One of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. This might be my favorite soundtrack in recent memory. So much fun, so heartfelt, and very funny. Great superhero movie. I love it. Next is Jordan Peele's sophomore film, Us. I did not like this movie as much as Get Out, but I still thought it was pretty great. This was actually the first ever review that I did on YouTube, and Lupita Nyong'o, great performance, playing two different people. Well, even though the whole family played two different people, she stole the show. This was absolutely her movie. She shined the entire time. But even though I loved Get Out a lot more, it's still very good. Next, Waves, the biggest surprise of 2019. I was hearing so many things about this movie, and I watched it and I was blown away. This is the same director as It Comes at Night, which was very polarizing to say the least, but that had more to do with how that movie was marketed. But Trey Edward Schultz, he is a director to keep your eyes on. I actually enjoyed It Comes at Night. It wasn't great, I just thought it was good, but this movie is something else. Some of the most beautiful cinematography that I have ever seen. The colors just leap off of the screen, and it's just beautiful to look at. And the camera movements, some of them are just mind-blowing. I really question how they were able to pull some of them off. And it's a very emotional story of a family that's just been ripped apart by a tragedy, and it's very sad. It rips your heart out, but it's very entertaining, and I love it. Next, Whiplash. I don't know if I've said this on my channel, but this is my favorite movie of all time. Everything about this movie is just perfect. Damien Chazelle's direction, the performances from Miles Teller and J.K. Simmons, the cinematography, the color grading, the editing, the music was catchy, and I'm not a jazz fan, but I loved the music in this movie. This is a movie I can watch over and over again and without ever getting bored. I love showing this movie to people who have not seen it because I want to share my love of it with them. I mean, I'll probably make a video about Whiplash sometime in the future just to go over how truly remarkable it is, but this is a modern masterpiece. This movie, oh my god, I can't say enough about it. I love it just so much. Watch it. And the last movie in terms of alphabetical order, because there's two more things I want to show off, is Yesterday. This is another movie from last year that I really enjoyed, and I've seen reviews. People weren't liking this movie as much as I did. I thought it was very good. It's definitely not the most amazing movie of 2019, but it's a very enjoyable story with a very original concept. And I mean, how can you go wrong with a movie that's all about the Beatles and their music? The Beatles are one of the greatest bands of all time. And the last two things are collections. So right here, you guys have seen these in the background, is the Quentin Tarantino Collection. These are all of his movies from Reservoir Dogs up until Django Unchained. So the only Tarantino movie that I don't own is The Hateful Eight. But I have not watched all of these yet. I have seen Inglourious Basterds, and I have seen Pulp Fiction. Great movies. I've seen Kill Bill, but a long time ago. But I have not yet seen Death Proof, Jackie Brown, or Django Unchained, sad to say. But I bought this off Amazon because after I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was just in like a Tarantino mood, and I wanted to experience all his movies, so I bought this. And I'm so happy I did because it has all of these great movies for the price of one. And the last Blu-rays that I will show is also the movies you have seen in the background of my videos, is the Spider-Man 5 movie collection. These are the first 5 Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi trilogy, Spider-Mans 1, 2, and 3, and The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The original trilogy from Sam Raimi is great. Number 1 was great. Number 2 might be the greatest superhero movie of all time. It's one of my personal favorites. Number 3 was mediocre, but it is still watchable. And The Amazing Spider-Man I thought was okay, and The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was just a pile of garbage, but I bought all of them, so what does that say about me? Well, that's it, everybody. That was my Blu-ray collection. I will be posting more videos of the Blu-rays that I collect in the future. When I have a decent amount of them that I picked up since my last video, then I will be sure to post those. But in terms of reviews, I will be posting a lot more reviews soon. Like I said, I've just been very busy lately, but I am actually going to see The Invisible Man. If you guys want to see some reviews I've done in the past, I'll link those right over here. But other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.